So when we cover electric motorcycles on this channel, one of the common comments that I get, whether it's in private emails afterwards, on Twitter, or in the comments section to the video, is, yes, but that motorcycle is really, really expensive. How on earth am I going to buy that? Motorcycles have traditionally always been thought of as a more affordable solution to car ownership, and people assume that electric motorcycles are going to be the same, but frankly they're not. Some of the best electric motorcycles on the market today in terms of performance and range are more expensive than entry-level electric cars, entry-level highway-capable mid-range electric cars. So I'm really pleased that I've found out about Cake and its range of electric mopeds and motorcycles. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, none of the vehicles that Cake have on display here at CES are particularly fast. They're not particularly long range, but they are really affordable, and they're designed with utility, practicality, and fun in mind. So on my left, we've got the Cake Osa. This is a very utilitarian moped to all intents and purposes. It has a top speed of about 30 miles per hour. It can be charged overnight or in about 2 or 3 hours from a 110 volt socket. It's got a very nice, very functional aluminium chassis, really nicely made. Cake, by the way, is based in Stockholm, Sweden, but they're coming to the US and other countries around the world. Everything on the Cake Osa in terms of the frame is bolted on, so you can move the seat as you need to. You can add an additional seat on the back, as is the case with this one, or you can add extra cargo carrying capabilities, which is why this one has a luggage rack up front and a luggage rack in the rear. The Osa, being designed as a practical vehicle, also happens to have power takeoff. You've got a 12 volt cigarette lighter style accessory plugging directly into the battery pack, as well as a 5 volt USB outlet just there. In fact, there's 2 5 volt USB outlets. So this would be great if you wanted to tour somewhere on holiday, or you just needed a bike to get you to and from work, and you didn't necessarily have to ride along busy highway streets. If you've watched this channel before, you'll know my feelings when it comes to underpowered motorcycles. And I think it's probably fair to say that the Osa is underpowered. It's aimed towards people who would maybe think about buying somewhere between a 50cc or a 125cc moped. The chunky tires should help with your stability. It's great styling, and also it's very easy to ride if you've never ridden a moped before. It's just a twist and go throttle. You've got a front brake, and then you've got your rear brake on the other side. When you move to this version, you have a foot brake if you want it, and I think you can configure it to have the handlebar brakes if you so desire. This one has a higher top speed, however. This is the Osa Plus, which is more towards your 125 motorbike in terms of speed. This can go at a higher speed than this one, and so you're going to get better performance out of it. In terms of range, you're getting, we're told, somewhere around the 60 to 75 mile mark is easily achievable on all of the Cake models. The other thing that's really interesting about these bikes is their weight. They're super lightweight, and that means that they're not bikes that you're going to worry about dropping. If you watched my review of the Energica Esse Esse 9, you probably know that I actually dropped that bike the first day I had it on review. I was really embarrassed about it, and that was because it had all those heavy batteries on board. Not so with these. You can actually remove the batteries and take them inside to charge, which, if you live in a multi-family dwelling or you live in an apartment complex, is a great way of getting mobility, especially if you live in a busy city and you don't have personal parking where you would be able to arrange for a charging station to plug your car in. Those are the Osa, so the Osa and the Osa Plus. Let's go and have a look at the other 2 bikes in the range. Before I finish with these 2 final bikes on the stand, the Cake Calc OR and the Cake Calc And, I just want to talk to you about the pricing of the Cake Osa and the Osa Plus. So the Osa, that's the one that's the moped that has a 30 mile an hour top speed. That retails from $6,500 US. The Osa Plus, which has a top speed of 65 miles per hour and has between 60 and 70 miles of range, that retails from about $8,500. That is pretty affordable when you talk about electric motorcycles, at least compared to to what we have on the market today. So let's talk about these two, because they're a little bit more traditional in their appearance. They remind me in some ways of the early Zero DS, but the Cake Calc OR, that's off-road to you and I. This is an off-road trails only bike. It's not road legal. It doesn't have the mirrors or the indicators or any of the lights, and it's got a ruggedized control system up front which you can operate very easily through off-road gloves that allows you to control the regenerative braking, but also the speed and acceleration profile. That's all done using dials on the top of the stem here. This is geared slightly higher than the Calc And, although they have the same 11 kilowatt motor, which incidentally is found in the Plus over there as well. In terms of performance, that means with the higher gearing that this one is geared for acceleration. For off-road, it's going to have a lower top speeds. This one is slightly lower geared than this one. This one is geared for speed rather than acceleration. You're going to get a top speed of about 65 miles per hour out of this, which, as I've already said, is good for round town. Might not be good for sustained freeway driving, but not very many people who are looking for a commuter bike necessarily, especially if they're new to the world of motorcycling, don't necessarily want a high-end performance bike, especially not if it's heavy. And that's one thing that the Calc is not. Both of these bikes top in at around 150 pounds. If you don't know what 150 pounds is, let me just say it this way. It's lighter than me. And it's much more pleasant being the heaviest thing on a motorbike than being on a heavy motorbike, especially if you don't have a whole lot of upper body strength. It means you can get it around corners a lot more easily. It's easier to lean, and to be frank, if the bike is lighter, it's often a lot easier to get out of trouble. The other thing I should point out with the Calcs is that they have chain drives, which the other two do not. They have belt drives, and chain drives do give you a better feedback in the field. It gives you a better idea of how fast you're going. So the other two are going to be quieter to ride. These are going to give you more audible feedback, which if you've got a crash helmet on is always good. It's not kind of the loud pipes save lives, but it's more a case of if the chain is making a nice rattling, reassuring rattling sound, it's easier for you to judge how fast you're going without having to look down at this very nice multi-function display right here, which again bolts just straight onto the top of the stem. You can see that the riding position here is very dual sport. It's very upright. It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but I just can't wait to put these through their paces. And the batteries, I'm told, can be removed. There's just a couple of bolts that you undo, which again means if you go for the Calc And, if you want a commuter bike that's capable of on-road travel, you don't necessarily have to have access to off-road parking and charging. You can leave the bike on the street or chain to a lamppost if that's legal where you live. You just take the battery out, take it up to your apartment or your house and charge it up. In terms of charging, these are all designed to charge with 110 outlets in the United States, but they can be switched over to 240 volts with a flick of a switch. So if you do have access to a J1772 or similar charging station, or you happen to live in a country where 240 volts AC is available at the wall, you can easily switch it over and you can charge the bike up. Again, recharge time 2 to 3 hours, and then you're ready to go and have some more fun again. 60 to 70 miles of riding, or if you're riding off-road, about 3 hours of ride time, unless you're an absolute hoon. And who wouldn't be? I mean, super lightweight. You're going to want to have fun on trails with this, getting the back end to kick out. They're not a high-speed electric motorbikes. You're not going to be driving either of these like you would something like the Energica Esse Esse 9 or the Zero SRF. But these bikes are less than half the price of both of those two rides. And let's face it, most people, if they're looking for a bike to commute to and from work, are going to be looking at something that is capable of doing a short bit of freeway driving, maybe of going through the suburbs, topping out at about 65 miles per hour. And that's where both of these bikes come into their own. Sadly, I haven't been able to try any of these out for myself, but I am told that Cake is coming up to Portland in the not too distant future, and I should then be able to get my hands on one just to put them through their paces. I hope you enjoyed this little rundown of what turns out to be some very affordable, convincing, well-made looking bikes. Obviously we'll know more when we ride. We'll have more content from CES 2020 in the not too distant future, but until then, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know the minute a new show is uploaded. You can support us through Patreon, send us a coffee on Ko-fi, or visit our swag store and buy a t-shirt like the one I'm wearing right now. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm Nikki Gordon-Bloomfield. Keep evolving.